Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maura Keefe. I'm one of the scholars in residence here, and it is my delight to be moderating this 15, 20-minute conversation with the artists, and to be sitting in the sun at Jacob's Pillow is also part of the pleasure. Let me introduce to you Risa Steinberg, who is the rehearsal coach and choreographic advisor, and Brian Brooks, choreographer and dancer. So Brian, I'm going to ask you about all of the pieces, but maybe not in the order that we saw them. I've been thinking about looking at your solo quiet music, which is now about 45 minutes old, so congratulations. But also, last year at this time, you made a commitment on July 1st to choreograph 31 solos in 31 days and premiere them on Instagram. And I was wondering if you could say something about like what doing that for the camera, for social media, how that related to making this new work that we just saw today.
Thanks. I had forgotten about that time 1 year ago. Michael Gordon, the great composer, who's often in residence with Becket at Mass MoCA, not too far from here, one of the founders of Becket and colleague and friend of mine, had called me the night before July 1st and said, Brian, I've been in lockdown, but I've been writing like crazy, and he had written 31 new short piano pieces and decided to release them with Vicky Chow, a really brilliant pianist, every day on Instagram for the month of July. So he said, I'm calling the piece July, and we think it needs a dancer. So what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm binging on Stranger Things on Netflix, and I have 2 puzzles, but I'll see what I can do. So send me the music. He said, no, I don't want you to hear it. We want to be in the moment. So each day at noon, Vicky would post the piano piece. It would be the first time I would hear the piece, and then I was tasked to go out, choreograph and film, and upload a piece to the score. So it kept me busy, which was a nice change. I have to say, there's so many different things. I mean, the first thing is to be here on a stage, provided by Jacob's Pillow, attended with an audience, being able to dance barefoot, soles of the feet on a clean marley floor. So I have to thank the crew and all of the staff at the Pillow for providing this for us. So that's immediately the thing I'll go to first, and hopefully quickly. The environment became tangible and visceral and kinesthetic and catastrophic and problematic. I can't dance on my carpets at home. When I move them, I have too little space, and I have a dog, and I couldn't figure out how to function. So last July forced me, as I'm sure it's forced so many of us, to adapt. And I just put on my sneakers, I went out in the rain, I danced in the lightning storm on 8th Avenue and posted it as a new dance. So it was really, but I felt the whole month like I was fighting, and I was, like we all were. So the conditions became really influential, and so I would say today's conditions became influential, and calm and quiet in a way.
But I was also thinking, we haven't had the privilege of seeing you dance a solo live in person for a while, and that's a kind of research that maybe was a hard taskmaster, but 31 solos, you must have discovered some things that informed what we saw today.
Oh, Maura, you have such a keen eye. And she gets right to it, doesn't she? I appreciate that so much. I don't quite understand the solo quiet music that I performed today. I haven't watched it. Risa has been coaching me, and I trust her, so I just let it happen. She said, okay, it's going well, let's videotape it. And I said, I won't videotape it, I don't want to see it. This is purely internal. I haven't seen the piece. You've seen it, but I'm existing in a totally internal blind world for the solo. I guess that happened last July. I had no stage, no audience, no colleagues. Sometimes I'd be out in Manhattan and there'd be no people. The lockdown was still extreme. So I think I just learned to, I remember being around 34th Street and there was an empty parking lot, and people kind of scattered around, everyone was masked, and I thought, this is your stage. Your performance starts now. And I just had to figure out how to own it without all of you and without the stage. So it wasn't comfortable or pleasant, but I suppose there's a certain vulnerability and a certain, I notice we're doing things now in just weird conditions when you can, because you can. So many things that usually I'd say, I need a clean floor, I need a wing, I need a private dressing room. And it's like, well, the gutter would work in a flood, it's fine too. I'll still get to dance. So maybe there's something about the vulnerability, and today was nice to be present with people.
And aside here, you can still see those on Brian Brooks on Instagram, so take a look. They are a delight. But you mentioned that you were working with Risa on this. And Risa, I want to ask you, I think your relationship working with Brian started when he was working with Wendy Whalen. And could you say something about what it means to be a choreographic advisor? I mean, rehearsal coach we'll get to in a minute, but what is it like to talk to a choreographer who has got a real clear idea of what he wants to help him make that clear, maybe?
First, I'd like to say thank you for being here. It's so moving. Oh, this. Oh, the second I walked on and there were people sitting in the audience, I had not realized how much I had missed you. So thank you for being here. We had met a long time prior to that, actually, because Brian was a dancer in Carolyn Dorfman's company, and I was their rehearsal person then. And we definitely, Brian and I are very similar and very different. And we click in those ways, even though it could be really challenging and tense sometimes because of our differences. And how we began this relationship started because Brian was asked to do a piece at Juilliard, where I'm faculty, for new dances, which was a program that Lawrence Rhodes, who was the director at that point of the dance division, started. It's a brilliant program, and Brian was asked to be one of the choreographers. And then, because we're friends and colleagues, he asked me to come into rehearsal. And that's where it all began. It started to cook. And it worked well. I'm not easy. I look sweet. I am not. I'm really not. And I am learning more and more how really horrific I am. And so I apologize. But it works.
I'd say direct.
I am direct. And one of the things I say to students all the time is I never, ever lie to dancers. Ever. It is a pact that I made years ago. I just won't lie. So if you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth. And Brian asks questions. So I told him the truth. And then we began this relationship. It is hard. And I'm always having to grapple with what is my aesthetic, what is their aesthetic. And their aesthetic has to win. And I always have to ask them, any choreographer that I'm working with, what is it that you want the audience to see? And then I'll say, well, I'm not seeing that. I'm one small little person, but I don't see that. And maybe if we do this, or if you look at it from this perspective, maybe we'll be able to find a way that you see it and I see it. And I would say that we're pretty accomplished now at that. So it's hard. I guess is my easiest answer to it. I'm working with a variety of choreographers, and Brian is my longest relationship in this area. And I could say that it gets deeper and deeper and deeper as we go along. I'm terrified he's going to fire me at some point.
It's not happening.
So far, it's not happening.
It's not happening.
So I want to ask about restaging, revising, closing distance. And I was thinking about, dancers, such innovations, such imagination for making work on Zoom or distanced rehearsals. But the thing about closing distance is not just proximity, which I think they were probably so happy to be close to each other, but it's also about moving through space. And if you could say something about what it was like to realize you're not all in your tiny apartments anymore, and you have to take up space, and just the rediscovery of that. And I think it happened. Some of that happened here in a Pillow Lab residency. So just what was it like to dig back into that work after so many months virtual?
I mean, the time at the Pillow Lab in October, those 10 days, were really the only time we've dug back into it. So we had 7 months off, and came here for 10 days in October as the first quarantine residency, and we were bubbled and protected and tested, so we were on site alone in the fall, which if you're around next fall, I would suggest a little trip up here because it is gorgeous. It was the first time we returned to each other, to a rehearsal and to our art form. So it was a really big and very emotional time, but we were allowed to touch, and it was interesting, the dance came back very quickly, so we were surprised by that and reassured that, with that panic where you think, what have I lost during this time? And it was really there, and so there was a new confidence and ease with the company that's remained. I think we all understand a little bit more what we do, and that shifted, but New York has stayed locked down, so we haven't been able to rehearse the piece. So the quarantine residency here was the only way for us to be back to work. We did another one in March at Lumberyard, not too far from here. We were able to touch the piece again, but we primarily were building flight study. We realized here in October, okay, we're not gonna drown here, we're gonna just find a way through. So. But really, we haven't been allowed to. We've had 6 rehearsals in New York in June. The studio just opened. We're still not allowed to touch, and we're masked. So we just worked on flight study. So the restrictions remain in dance, and we came up 10 days ago here and did another residency. So we've just pulled that back again. So I guess I'm being very descriptive. It's all hard. It's still hard. There's still obstructions. So to see them on the stage embodying it so fully and taking so many risks, and you see the trust through the ensemble, we're not rehearsing. It's just it's there. Risa's genius in giving them the fundamentals, 3 cues to hold on to throughout the work. So we have some anchoring, but I guess that's just proof of, I don't think it's a good idea not to rehearse a piece like that, but it just shows me the dedication and commitment and genius also of the performers. I couldn't do that with every group of dancers, but it's really made me more committed to getting through this moment.
I mean, one of the things about flight study that is so fascinating is that I feel like you often set up kind of impossible restrictions on your own choreographic process, and like, what happens if I put this limitation? So maybe the masking can't touch each other was not your choice?
Yeah, we just went with it. We just went with it.
So how did that, I mean, because we see the importance of the collective, but it's deliberately always distanced. So could you talk about how that became something to dive into more deeply rather than continually cursing?
Right. I mean, it's really necessity. It also, in adapting, I made the decision many times this year, retirement or adapt. So you all know that feeling, I'm sure, too. So I wouldn't be sitting here without the pillow and without Risa and without the dancers. I was really ready. It's hard to make dances anyway, so this is, So when we kind of turned that corner, flight study, it became about, okay, we're going to work. We can't rehearse partnering work, so what are we going to do? Okay, I can send you things on Zoom if no one touches. You can rehearse the piece with the music in lockdown situations with social distancing. So we it wasn't about that necessarily, but it also lined up with almost every piece I do is based in contact. So Risa and I, just in, not a pandemic nightmare and just really artistic development, she was like, you should make a piece where they don't touch each other. Like, just do something different. So I leaned into that. Like, let's just see this as a choreographic challenge. And I think it really worked. I'm very excited about, I know new things about choreography and what we're capable of that I didn't know even a few weeks ago because of Flight Study.
Risa, could you say something about what it's like to coach the ensemble in two very different works? Because some of it seems like so much is about the actual physical contact, and then they don't have that in Flight Study.
Yeah, let me start by saying I love these dancers. They are, Brian is a very fine choreographer, so working for him is something a dancer would want to do. And he's also very lucky to have had this collection of humans and artists. They are really sensational. I'm also very fortunate that I know many of them, and I have for a very long time. And so we speak a common language. And so they know my language, they know my passion for intention. I'm not somebody who really loves movement for movement's sake. I wanted to say something because I believe if you're not saying something, you're saying that you're not saying something. So you're always in communication of some sort. So the differences of these pieces are not hard to coach because they're very clear in what their goals are. I do want to say something about Flight Study, which is so much the difference of Closing Distance. You'll notice in Flight Study that the closer somebody comes to you, the further you go away from them, which is a consequence of COVID. We can't be close, or we couldn't be close. And without you even thinking about it, or maybe you did and I don't know, the consequence of what we lived is very visible in that piece. So, I'm also somebody who believes that space is active, even if you're not in it. And so coaching them, they have similar languages to me. Closing Distance is a very intimate piece. I must say that I'm just getting used to seeing it in an open space. It's very different than when I see it in a closed space. And I'm grappling with how to think about bringing that information into the rehearsal process. So, because it should live in any space, because it's a beautiful piece, but how do we not lose the kind of core magnet to the other person?
Brian, do you want to say something, having now seen the world premiere of Flight Study?
I mean, I said it downstairs. I would say bravo to the dancers. I mean, it's theirs now, and it's remarkable when you generate and collaborate, and then are able to still be compelled and engaged, right? Something I've seen so many times, and I still am not looking away. So I'm excited for that. I look for those moments, and it's the first piece in my career that I've shared the choreographic credit with the dancers. So I feel really excited by that change. During this time also I realized the collective is so strong and how we have something, we rely on a teamwork, not just on stage and in the content of the work, but also in the making and in the process. And in this dire time, they were patient and there for me. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to learn about your colleagues. And so I also realized coming out of this, which is why I'm performing. I shouldn't perform in a piece with them. It would be I would be a wreck for them, but I wanted to be on stage with them because I feel beside them. I don't feel in front of them. I feel like they've invited me into their company. So I like sharing the choreographic credit because it's so reciprocal, and I'm letting it be more reciprocal and collaborative. So I was just, I'm very proud. I can't believe we made something and you all came to see something. So I just say thank you, and let's move forward patiently.
Thank you both so much for the work. We're so
Thank you,
delighted
Maura.
to be
Thank you,
back.
everybody, so much.